welcome. In the previous lectures, we have looked at the general idea about what we mean by machine learning, and we have also introduced you to the task of concept learning or classification. In today's class, we are going to study algorithms for learning decision trees, which can be used as classifiers for the concept learning task. In today's lecture, the objective is that the students will become familiar with the definition of a decision tree, what a decision tree is, and how a decision tree can be used as a classifier. The student will also learn an algorithm to construct a decision tree from a given set of training examples, induction of decision trees. We will also introduce the student to the concept of information gain and entropy and how these are used to construct a decision tree. Later, we will also look at, we will try to review how learning algorithms are reviewed in terms of the training set error and test set error. We will also show how overfitting occurs in decision trees, and in a later class we will look at how overfitting can be avoided in decision trees. So, let us come to what a decision tree is. A decision tree is a classifier in the form of a tree structure. A decision tree is a tree through which we make decision. So, the tree in the decision tree has a number of nodes. The leaf nodes indicate the value of the class or the value of the target attribute. So, you have a set of training examples. The training examples consist of a number of features or attributes. One of the attributes is the target attribute, which denotes the class that you are trying to learn. In the decision tree, we will just look at examples of the decision tree presently. The leaf nodes correspond to one of the classes that the classifier is trying to learn, and the internal nodes are called the decision nodes. The internal nodes usually specify some test to be carried out, and usually for most of the algorithms that we will study, a decision node usually tests the value of a single attribute, and corresponding to each value of the attribute, you follow one of the branches that come out of this node. So, let us now look at an example of a decision tree. So, this is a decision tree which has been constructed to decide whether for a particular loan applicant, whether the loan should be approved or rejected. So, at the root, the attribute employed is checked. So, employed in this case is a Boolean attribute. If employed is no, if the person is not employed, then the attribute credit score is checked. If the attribute credit score has value high, then the loan is approved. If the attribute credit score has value low, the loan is rejected. On the other hand, if the person is employed, then income is checked. If income is high, loan is approved. If income is low, the loan is rejected. So, this is an example of a decision tree. As you can see, there are 4 leaf nodes in this decision tree. 2 of them correspond to approve and 2 of them correspond to reject. There are 3 internal nodes in this particular decision tree corresponding to the attributes employed, credit score and income. And from every internal node, there are a number of branches corresponding to the different values that this attribute can take. Employed can take the value of yes or no. Credit score can take the value of high or low. Income can take the values of high or low. So, this is an example of a decision tree. This is an example of another decision tree, and this decision tree has been constructed to find out whether a person likes a particular type of food. Now, there are several attributes that we have used. Some of these are test, dry, hot, and so on. Test can be sweet, sour or bitter, dry can be yes or no, hot can be yes or no. Now, look at this decision tree. At the root we check the attribute taste. So, if taste is sweet, then you check the attribute dry. If dry is yes, then this food is liked. The answer is yes. If dry is no, answer is no. If taste is sour, then the attribute hot is checked. If hot is yes, then the food is liked. If hot is no, then you check the attribute dry. If dry is no, the food is liked. If dry is yes, food is not liked. If taste is bitter, the food is not liked. So, this is an example of another decision tree. Note that the height of the depth of the different leaves vary, right. For example, if the taste is bitter, this food is not liked irrespective of the other attributes. If the food is sour, then if it is hot, it is liked. If it is not hot, but it is not dry also, then it is liked, otherwise it is not liked, and so on. Now, you note that each internal node in the decision tree tests an attribute. Each leaf node assigns a classification, and each branch corresponds to an attribute value. The internal nodes, there are 4 internal nodes here, test, dry, hot and dry. Each of them tests one attribute. Each leaf node assigns a classification, liked or not liked. Each branch corresponds to an attribute value. So, let us come to the formal definition of a decision tree. A decision tree is a tree in which each non-leaf node has associated with it an attribute or a feature. Each leaf node has associated with it a classification. In case the concept learning problem is a 2-class problem, the classes can be plus or minus. In general, there could be a finite number of classes. Each arc in the decision tree corresponds to one possible value of the attribute of its parent node. Okay. So, decision tree is defined in terms of its components, the internal nodes, the leaves and the branches. The leaves are the classes, the internal nodes are the decision nodes where an attribute value is checked. The branches coming out of the decision tree correspond to the different values that the attribute